Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. I want to introduce a dear friend of mine and an ex-colleague who very graciously has decided to step in for someone who couldn't make it today. I am proud to say this is something which AI can't do. Okay, find a replacement in 10 minutes. That's Preeti Kamlakar. A round of applause for her, please.
Hello, everyone.
She's a very senior HR professional
Pleasure to be here.
runs her own consulting business now. So any startups looking for some amazing HR advice, please feel free to contact her. This is an amazing opportunity today to go through something which I call the elephant in the room situation, reshaping and reskilling for the future. And there is these questions everybody has over a period of time after seeing the barrage of AI tools and the inclusion of AI features in multiple things that we do in our day-to-day life as HR people. So there's these questions which come up, and I'm glad to have three amazing minds within the HR field to answer some of these questions that we have today. So my first question to the panel is what major workforce shifts are driving the urgency around reskilling employees and upskilling them today. Whoever wants to go first, please feel free to do that. Yeah.
I can.
Go for it.
All right. I think what major work shifts driving change? I think living in the world of AI transformation, things changing faster than we could see. I mean, today, tomorrow, between the 2 days, things seem to be changing. I think what is really changing is technology is changing faster than ever. Global roles coming, skilling, I think what is getting really important is for people to be able to learn and adapt. Technology is changing faster than ever as we see it. By the time we realize, a new edition or a new version of the technology is already up. And hence, while that will keep evolving, what will be very important, I believe, is to be able to learn and to be able to adapt, to what is coming the way. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Rama?
Yeah, I would like to add to that. So, according to the World Economic Forum report last year, 92 million jobs are getting disrupted. And simultaneously, 170 million are getting created also. The reason being, as my colleague just mentioned, AI, automation, shift in the demographics, and green transitions as well. So while we say there is a lot of shift, but there is an opportunity that we can encash from it. So I see it as a positive wave where we would, in our discussion, also find out ways to how encash those.
Yep.
So I think in the world of AI, there's never a dull day. And I think as we can all see, I think as my co-panelists have just shared, the world of AI definitely is transforming at a pace which maybe most of us are really struggling to keep pace with. But the reality is, there was this phrase which says that it is not the survival of the strongest, but the survival of people who are most adaptable. So AI is here to stay. And I think the more organizations, individuals, everyone adapts to it, right? And embraced technology. So there are all these articles, write-ups which you come across with saying that more than 50% of jobs could get eliminated. I mean, of course, it remains to be seen. I'm reminded of the computer era when people had said that there will be, hardly any jobs if computers come in. But the reality is it was the reverse. I think the number of opportunities which is created is humongous. Similarly with AI, yes, a lot of repetitive, a lot of mundane tasks will get taken over. But I think that will also give opportunity to do a lot of high-end tasks, right? People will be able to move on to things which is so much more. Like today, I mean, just to give an example, earlier creating a presentation, if you're in the learning and development function, it would probably take weeks. Today, thanks to Gamma, you can actually create in like minutes, right? But what do you do with that additional time? How do you constantly upskill yourself is going to be the challenge, both for individuals and for organizations. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting we're already in there, so it's not something which is coming. But I think the future of work is really going to get changed in ways which we could probably never imagine.
Well, very well put. Actually, these days we joke about this, but you go for a holiday of 10 days, you come back and there are 5 new tools to be learnt, right? And obviously there's a cost involved, I want to know from you all, how exactly is AI and automation shaping or rather reshaping the skill relevance in workforce today? And what are those most critical skills that will govern the next 5 to 10 years? What will be essential for the workforce to pick up?
Like we were talking, and I think it's been an AI-heavy load day to day from morning. And in multiple sessions, I think what I've been hearing is, AI, yes, will take away jobs. The initial entry-level jobs is all going to go away. But, like how Lolly was saying, a lot more jobs will come in. The key factor here, I believe, will be the ones who adapt, the ones who upskill themselves, and the ones who learn how to use AI will be the differentiators. And that's the skill, I think, that will be there going forward in terms of, example from an analytics perspective. So, you'll have AI that will churn out a lot of data for you, so you'll not need a human to kind of do that. But you'll definitely need a human to be able to understand what the data is saying, and to share out the story from storytelling perspective to be able to influence folks at the helm. So I think that is something that
very well put, Preeti. Thank you. Yes, Rama.
Yeah, I think very rightly said. So even the top reporters of our HR community have given some top 4 skills that are going to be very useful at least in the duration of 25 to 2030. So that would be AI, of course, AI literacy, that is to say. Then we have data interpretation. So world has now taken a turn in terms of, say, not just the executing part. Now it's very important on making ethical judgments, specifically when AI has come into the picture. So it has become all the more important how we are interpreting data. And thanks to Advait, I am not sure if he's here right now, he was talking about data heavy, or maybe it's better to say data driven decision making, right? So when we have so much of data available along with AI, it becomes very crucial for the organization where to focus and do away with the biases while making the judgment call, right? So that's one. And coming to the third one is the human intervention. So I guess no matter how much technology would, or how diverse technology can get, or how advanced technology can get, we need to focus on the mindset here. When I say mindset, okay, let me ask you one question. How many of us are from HR fraternity here? If can I have a hands up there? Okay. And how many of us agree that we are in the support function? I'm really glad. So we are enablers, right? So that mindset has changed over the years, and now we need to reposition AI as not a threat, but as an opportunity, as an enabler to go forward and make the best out of it, right? So that's about the third part. And then, of course, like Preeti also rightly mentioned, we need to have learning agility. Unless we are able to, learn, unlearn, relearn, then the world is tough. So it's not that AI is gonna replace you or automation is gonna replace you. The lack of you adapting to it will, keep you behind in the race. So that's what I would say. These 4 skills are, topmost.
Very well put, Rama.
Yeah, so I'll probably add to what they've just shared. I think the human-centric skills are going to be timeless. They were timeless then, will be now, and will be in the future. So some of the human-centric skills essentially being the sense of curiosity, creativity, right? Human ingenuity, as they say. How well humans can adapt, I think that is something which is going to be timeless. In terms of leadership competencies, I think ability to create psychological safety, create a climate of trust, create that kind of a culture where people can thrive and make mistakes, and learn from their mistakes, right? It's okay to make mistakes and still, evolve from there. Most importantly, I think in terms of skills around how you can build cultures which are resilient. I think today the sense of fear is there across the board, right? How is AI really going to shape our future work? But if leaders are able to show the path by saying that, yeah, we don't know it all. It's okay and we don't have all the answers. But to create a culture where we can say that, we will learn it along the way. We will probably make some mistakes, we'll fail, but we'll still get up and we'll still get there. I think that is something which is really going to be, and I think they've already talked about creating a culture of continuous learning. And this is something which, again, leaders need to sort of walk the talk. I think the rest of the organizations get aligned if they see that the leadership is aligned to, really walking the talk. And lastly, I would say the whole vision of having to look at things very strategically. The reality is this is something which is going to rather be looked at as an imminent threat, to be looked at as if this is what it is, look at it as an opportunity and see how we can upskill. And I think that's where HR plays a very pivotal role in sort of bringing about, challenging the status quo, leading the digital transformation initiative within the organization.
Excellently put. And very smooth transition into a very important question that organizations need to answer. Whose responsibility exactly is it to drive this change, the reskilling, reshaping of how things look like for the future? Is it the individuals that need to do it? Or is it the employers that hold the responsibility to push things ahead? Or, the policymakers within the framework, So would love to know your take. I've got, in this case, there's no right and wrong, to be honest, okay? So please, don't judge the individual from the answer, because a lot of this comes from the organizations that we are working with, and that's what we want to know, that how are organizations seeing this?
So maybe I'll... Okay. I think at an individual level, while of course they need to own at a certain level, that I also need to stay ahead of the curve and get it. But in an organizational context, I think the employer, right, the organization takes a larger share of the responsibility to see how can you create a culture where learning is an integral and an inherent part of growth, right? So when organization sets that kind of mandate, and of course there will be resistance. People love to be in a comfort zone, right? So how do you nudge people out of their comfort zone? How do you slowly make it incentivize wherever possible? Make it interesting, engaging for them to really make that transition. And at the policymaker level, of course, there are, of course, a lot of things which need to be done at those levels to really see that it is somewhere becoming a part of the DNA at all levels. But primarily, my take would be that it is the organization which needs to really, really take the lead in making it happen, put the necessary investments wherever required, and of course, not AI for the sake of AI. AI for the sake where there is a tangible increase in, whether it is in improving productivity, efficiency, whether it is just making sure that you're making the transition to become a more agile organization. So how do you create a learning culture within this? Of course, I would say it's the organization.
Sorry, I want to make this thing a little bit more juicier by asking who should pay for the tools that are available nowadays. Please include that in your response as well.
Yeah, so I think it starts with if the organization is going to be using it, of course, the organizations pay for it. But I think, and yes, at times, some of the tools can be prohibitively expensive. But if there is an ROI where you can see that, whether it's over 2 years, 3 years, whatever is the time span, right? So do the homework, and you will see that a whole lot of these tools does make a lot of sense in the longer run.
Right.
Right?
Very well said, Lolly. So we started with speaking about job getting disrupted. So let me talk about the skills. So every 2-3 years, the skills are also getting disrupted to about 44%. Now, it's the responsibility now then for an individual, for organization, and all of the policy makers. So maybe I'll select the last option, all of the above that you mentioned, you know. So yeah, I would definitely agree there. In the right proportion, every stakeholder needs to invest in this. Why? Because it's not a question of choice, it's a question of survival. So as an organization, if you don't change, you fail. As an individual, if you don't upskill or reskill yourself, you lag behind. So let me give you a few examples here. One of my, college time seniors now, he's in a very good position in a real estate company. So they made a decision right at the time where they had to replace the whole team. I'm talking about the entire department getting replaced because those people, they were resisting to change or upskill themselves a lot. And now there is a positive example as well. Anybody from Google here? All right. No issues. So Google has had a 2020 policy wherein they allow their employees to spend 20% of their time in the upskilling or in investing themselves in their own projects, upskilling or reskilling, unlearning, relearning. So and they have given positive results in terms of productivity. 20% increase they have seen. So it's high time that every stakeholder realizes that we need to move forward.
Well said.
I think Laurie and Rama have largely covered most of it, but what I would just like to add is, yes, I agree, employers have a higher responsibility to kind of bring it to the table, but you can get someone to the well, but you can't, really get the person to drink water. In that context, I believe it is important for the respective individual as well to have that mindset, to upskill, to have the learning agility. And I think it's a combined effort where the organization provides that kind of an environment, that kind of a culture where, you are really imbibing or really, having people learn, continuous learning culture, creating those kind of situations, creating those kind of an environment where people can, actually learn from each other, learn from the organization, providing that entire environment. And of course, being able to benefit from each of this. And it's in the industry, I believe it will be important for the individuals as well to contribute enough to be a differentiator. Like we said, the kind of fear, if I can so call it, I don't like using the word, but yes, to be in the race, like how Rama was saying. So it's a competition, we like it or not. And it's important for people to be, to be there, to showcase themselves, to show that they are the differentiators too. I think it's a combined effort that goes with the organization, providing, the requirements, and the individual raising up their hand and saying, yes, I'm up for it, and I'm there in the race.
Awesome. Rama did mention one part, which was the resistance part, and sadly, the entire department had to actually be changed. It's a very present situation in a lot of companies, a lot of teams, where there is this resistance to any kind of change. And I'm not just talking about the AI tools and all of that, just normal change. The ones who keep screaming, change, change, I say, why don't you change your seat for a month and let's see how do you cope up with that. So we keep saying this, but it's not easy, okay? So I want to know, how do you motivate people who are resisting this change? And it's inevitable, you can't. As she said, survival. I'm talking about a world where we thrive and coexist with, all the AI tools and everything, make things faster. So the best people are using the best tools, and life is faster, easier, and more productive in that sense. So I would love to know your take on how do you motivate people who resist this.
I'll go for that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I can't even say ladies first. All three are.
Right. Hi, thank you. So I would want to reiterate one thing I already said before, that we need to change the mindset, need to reposition whatever is coming in as a change, not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Now, how this is what we can do. Let me talk about the how part of it. Now, so it's always better to make success stories rather than showing presentations. So now I would want to connect this to our theme of the whole event, wellness, employee wellness, right? So it's really important that the employee feels connected. There should be a belongingness that needs to be there, so that they are open and they are vulnerable enough to say, hey, I don't know this, let me do it that way, or maybe let me do this that way. Can you, maybe peer learning, can you tell me? So that becomes important, and we have seen a very high importance given to psychological safety, especially after COVID times. So it's inevitable that we can't have productivity from the employees unless they feel safe psychologically also in the workplace. It's not just about the general fire drills or the normal compliance norms. So we need to go beyond those tick mark items and ensure that the people are feeling safe enough and they have a healthy environment to learn better.
You very well put this part where fear is driving compliance, motivation drives change. Preeti, if you could incorporate this part in your response as well.
Sure, I think, very well put, by Rama, psychological safety is a big thing. I think we are currently at the intersection of AI-enabled, technology, employee well-being, and, the employer branding, right? I mean, if you look at it from an overall perspective, from a theme that is there. And I think organizations that will move ahead, or, that'll, for organizations to succeed, going forward, I completely agree that psychological safety is a key aspect there. For people to be able to bring themselves as they are, if that safety net is available for people, I think that creates a whole different level of an environment. I think that's one key aspect is what I would say, on the psychological safety side.
Awesome.
Okay, so I think any initiative to really succeed has got to be driven top down, which starts with leadership taking the onus. One of the things which, in my organization, we take pride in saying we're a people-first organization. But last year, we started this whole thing around saying that we want all employees to look at it as AI first. So one of the ways, use cases, which I want to share, is the fact that we came up with an intervention on the lines of Shark Tank, right? So we asked each of the teams to either individually or as a group of people come up with some initiative, okay, of how they can enhance productivity, of how they can think out of the box. So the whole thing was to see, so whether it is using AI, whatever it may be, come back and make a business case to present that, this is how, either you can bring in more revenues, optimize costs, make things better, customer experience, employee experience. And the feedback that we received was overwhelming. Right, so we had people sometimes right at the ground level coming up with some certain ideas which was completely out of the box. So people, thought of actually shifting their whole perspective into how they can make this difference. Another thing which we did was around, so one of our values is around innovation. Now, of course, we all talk about, during onboarding, everyone has to get familiar with the values. But when you really practice the value of innovation to say that how are you really going to really come up with, driving those innovative ideas that you may have. And it doesn't matter whether, I remember there was a couple of ideas which came from folks who had just been in the company for the first 2-3 months, and which was a testimony to the fact that many a times people at grassroots level have ideas which maybe many leaders sitting at the top may not even have conceived or thought of. So these were two initiatives which really helped us go. We also did in terms of making sure that leadership KPIs also talked about it, right? So leadership KPIs were, in sort of ingrained into making sure that they are driving this agenda. Also in terms of succession plan, anybody getting promoted, we made sure that how innovatively are they looking at adopting, any kind of digital transformation. So I think some of these things, when it just doesn't become lip service, but you actually see it being rewarded and sort of recognized, it helps in sort of making the real impact.
Well, the responses actually prompted me to think about something we also did very recently. I'd like to share with the crowd over here. I work with Affinity Global Advertising. We are an advertising technology company. So bear in mind that we are a tech company first, an advertising company at the later stage. So which means our products are used by the advertising world. We have pushed this year as the year of AI adoption, and one of the things that we did was just about 2 months back, we had all the leaders in the organization come up with concepts and ideas which are going to incorporate AI tools going forward and use the current products to build something for the future. The program was called Future Bets, and it included the investment that we will need to make in which technology and what is going to happen. And then this year, based on my insistence, and thankfully my CEO didn't take much convincing him, we've actually added a competency to all, or rather a parameter for all people, department heads particularly, called AI adoption. So you're going to get appraised on AI adoption towards the end of the year. So we do appraisals twice a year, H1, H2, and on both occasions you'll have to prove what is the AI adoption. And every new position that we are adding is going to be scrutinized against whether we can use AI to make that particular change. And that brings me to my last question for today. One bold step that organizations should take today to prepare for the future of the workplace. I don't know who's going to go first, because we've tried all combos now.
Okay, so I think bold step is largely to be acceptance of the fact that change is here and change is now. So sort of embrace that change, be agile, be nimble-footed, and be willing to say that we don't know it all. I think when leadership is able to demonstrate vulnerability, right, that becomes something which down the line everybody is willing to follow. So I think leadership has a much more pivotal role to play in this whole thing, to really say, walk the talk and see that how they are continuously learning in this. So organizations which are willing to accept this challenge will thrive, will grow at much faster speed and this. And I think at the heart of it is not losing the human connect. No matter what AI or no, I think organizations which lead with empathy and compassion, I think the world needs that. It's not just at the workplace. I think everywhere we need leaders and organizations who are really conscious of everything that they do and the consequences of their actions. So I think once that comes in, you can take many bold steps. It will not end up becoming detrimental or counterproductive.
Fantastic.
I'll take a cue from the vulnerability bit here, and I would say the bold step would be to be aware where we are. So, and then accept that. My company does offer talent solutions, and we did a market survey there for AI specifically, and we have segmented the adoption of AI into 4 stages. So the first being, the awareness where you just know the tool and you're prompting, and then the second stage would be maybe Gen AI, using those prompts and creating something. And then the third stage is maybe creating agents, using co-pilots, and the fourth one is very advanced. Let's maybe leave it there. Why I'm saying this? Because almost 80 to 90% of the organizations at the moment, they are mostly at the second stage. People have not really scaled up to even the third stage. So constant checks are needed on, it's not just it's not just, saying in the reports that, oh, I have done this training, so this is a tick mark in my list, and let it be. Reinforcement is all the more important because, you would find in researches that people would forget 90% of the new information in about first 10 days, if not reinforced, and then this continues to degrade. So reinforcement is as much important as, starting the journey, right? So I would encourage each and every one of us present here to at least start from the step of being aware where we are, accepting it, and then going ahead in that direction. Let me just give you one example here. There are a lot of methods these days on which we can rely on for the reinforcement bit. So if you have heard of Duolingo, anybody have? Yeah. Right, so they are using that module of spaced time learning. So before a person's mind forgets anything, they would reinforce in their gamified modules. So it depends now how interesting and how creatively you're able to sell your proposition to your team or organization and then implement it. And of course, the way of implementing also matters. So yeah, let's begin at least. Yeah.
Preeti, that one bold step.
I would just sum it up by saying we are in an evolution. So different companies are in different stages of AI evolution, that applies to them. And what will be relevant while companies continue to strive forward is value the human connection that is there, and uphold that, while AI will follow.
Thank you. One very important thing in this part, the one bold step, obviously there's different things organizations need to do. But remember, as HR people, remember this part, that there needs to be that human behind that resource, and never forget that aspect. And to be honest, the AI tools will be able to build all the surveys that you want, the exit interview surveys, all the analytics that you want, all the presentations that you want. But at the end of the day, the AI bit cannot reassure, cannot probably read between the lines, okay? It doesn't have a gut feel, okay? And as HR people, we cannot forget that gut feel more often than not gives you the insight that even sometimes data or analytics and all the AI tools will probably not be able to do. I was very recently, I was in another event where one of the speakers, she said that when I interview, I reject people purely because I don't get the feel. And the HR person is pulling his hair out thinking, why is this wrong? And she said, if I don't get the right feel, I don't do it. And that's something which, there's like so many AI tools that are coming in now, where even right up till the offer, the tool is going to do that. And where's the gut feel then? Okay, so remember this, that the human behind the resource is most important in that. AI can do everything else, but not reassure. Okay, and particularly cannot do the jugaad that I did by bringing Preeti on stage today. So thank you so much once again, and you've been an amazing audience. Sorry, we didn't really have too much time for any questions per se, because we're kind of very hard bound by time today. Thank you so much to the panelists as well, and thank you so much for being a patient audience. Have a great day, everybody.